Hello, Mantua Township. Mayor Bob Zimmerman here with Mayor Message number 28. I'm here with newly minted Committeeman Jason Snyder. Jason was sworn in to a Township Committee seat on January 6th at our reorganization meeting. He ran for election last year in place of Committeeman Layton, who chose not to seek re-election for another term. So I brought Jason along. He's here. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and give our residents an understanding of himself, his background, and what he brings to the table as a new committee person. So happy to have you on our program here, and would just like to start with how long have you been in Mantua Township, and can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in the township?
Yeah, so I've been here for over 22 years. Matter of fact, March will be 23 years. You know, my wife and I, when we were starting out and planning on having a family, we were looking all over South Jersey for a place to live. And we happened to be visiting friends here in Mantua, and on our way home, we saw a sign that said "Coming Soon, Single Family Homes." So we made a phone call, and by the next afternoon, we had a deposit down, and we were waiting for them to build a house, and the rest is history. We've been here ever since, and we love it here. We have a great neighborhood, we have a great community, and raised my kids here. So go through the school system. They're not kids anymore; they're grown adults, 21 and 23 years old, but. I'm very happy with the town, and I wouldn't consider leaving because it's too good here for me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in the community? I know you're a member of Incarnation Church, and you've spent some time on the MUA here. Tell us a little bit about maybe things your kids were involved in, things you've been involved in, and other things maybe that you enjoy doing around the township.
A lot of my involvement in the town does revolve around my kids and their activities, especially growing up through school with sports, and then as they got older, when they got into the high school grades, with whether it be marching band, and it was jazz band, and tennis and music lessons. The connections that they made, wound up being connections for Michelle and I with the parents of those other kids, and some of them we stayed in contact with, some of them we are really close with. And others, even as a casual appearance when we see them, it's just good to catch up.
Many know that you spent a career in law enforcement, 25 years with the Cherry Hill Police Department. You spent some time in administration. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in policing, in your leadership roles, and your educational background, and how that will help you in your service as a committee person here in Mantua?
Well, I guess I'll start with my educational background. I do have a bachelor's degree. I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. My degree is in administration of justice, and it wasn't a lifelong dream of mine to be a police officer. It's something that kind of came up during some course study when I did an internship with the Pittsburgh Police Department. It was extremely exciting. I was very fortunate that my first ride-along was a little bit more than an adventure, and I kind of caught the bug a little bit, moved on from there. Went through the process like a lot of my colleagues did back then, and was lucky enough to get hired by a great agency, Cherry Hill Police Department. I spent 10 years in patrol, and I loved every minute of it. I liked to go out and proactively patrol. It led to some promotional assignments. I spent 6 years as a detective, primarily working in the crime scene unit, but I did a couple of task force assignments with the DEA, worked on an auto theft task force, so I had a lot of assignments there. Was promoted to patrol sergeant, spent just over a year and a half there, and then returned back to the investigative unit as a detective sergeant, where I did another 4.5 years, and it was an incredible assignment. But it was very stressful and demanding, and there was a lot going on. Even in a town like Cherry Hill, every town has crime, and then you do the best to control that. I moved on to a watch commander position, which is a patrol lieutenant. I enjoyed that as well, even though it meant going back to work at midnights for a couple more years. But I always adapted well to the time and the assignments. Towards the end of my career, I was fortunate enough to be promoted to captain, and it was an entirely administrative position. And my assignment was a little unique. I was in charge of the investigative unit, but also the services division. So everything from the detectives and the responsibilities that they had, but also the fleet management and buildings and grounds and management of grants and responsibilities, firearms applications, things like that. So that gave me a lot of insight into the process of government purchasing and how to respond with grants, and just the process of approval through resolutions, and working with the town council at the time and the mayor's office and the controller, and understanding all the background of how government works, because the people that you see out and about are are getting the work done, and they're the ones that you see, but there's always somebody behind the scenes that has to facilitate that financially with planning and everything else that goes into that.
And so you've been retired, what, about 2 years now? And
Yes.
so what have you been doing since retirement, post-retirement work?
Well, I took a lot of my colleagues' advice, and for the first 11 months, I did absolutely nothing. I went fishing, I traveled a little bit, I spent some time at home. I did have a senior dog at the time who needed a little extra care, and I was happy to be home with him. And then I was fortunate enough for the most of 2024, I was working in the insurance industry as a risk manager and safety consultant. So that also gave me some insight into the compliance that a government agency goes to with OSHA regulations and with safety and with training that's required, just to make sure that you provide a safe environment for your residents and employees that you work with.
Just curious, what made you decide? You had a stressful career. I know I spent a career in police work myself. 25 years is a long time. You took some time off. You went back into the workforce, and now you decided to run for township committee. What inspired you to get involved here locally and want to run for committee, and now you're a committeeman? What drove you to that point?
So I've always been involved in politics here in Mantua and within Gloucester County, but a much more behind-the-scenes kind of support role. So just with some of the beliefs and ideals that I have and some of the people that I met and who were involved in politics themselves, I became good friends. And because I knew they were good people, I also wanted to do what I could to support them. A lot of this is the story of how we met, and how we had so much in common. And I reached out to you for some advice with some executive level training and things like that. It seemed like when my time came, I wasn't able or eligible to do this while I was a police officer. At least, the department I worked with, it was certainly not encouraged. It was a little bit of a blurred line there. Once the opportunity became available, an offer was made or a nomination was made, and I was honored, and I, gratefully accepted that.
Well, listen, we're thrilled to have you, and one of the huge advantages we have by having you on the committee is your background in public safety, and with that, we're going to incorporate your knowledge and your experience into our role here in leadership position, providing oversight to the police department. You'll be on the public safety committee, so the residents should be aware of that. And as a new committee person, what would you like to see through as a new committee person?
Well, I'm excited with the direction that the township is going. First and foremost, with the Fossil Park opening hopefully in the spring, and the amount of attention that will draw and the focus on our community here is amazing. So I'm a little excited about it. A lot of people have reached out to me, asking some questions about when that might, when those things are going to happen. So I've been doing the best I can to keep them informed as we become aware ourselves. But just in general, as far as the overall continued support of all of our departments and the resources and the facilities that we have for our residents. The same reasons why I love to live here is I'm sure the same reason other people do, and we need to continually provide that.
Why don't we take this opportunity, if you don't mind, tell the residents a little bit about what you do in your spare time. What are your hobbies or things that you enjoy?
On a day-to-day basis, I'm a very boring person. I sit
Like
at home.
most of us, right? That's why we do this.
Sometimes my favorite thing to do is absolutely nothing. But when I do watch a lot of sports, I'd like to be outdoors. I hunt, I fish, I hike, I camp. Just spending time, just being outdoors. With my recent retirement, with my children being older, my wife and I, we plan to travel. And, there are a lot of things that we have waited, pushed off till later in our lives to do. And we realize that it's now time to do that. So I'm really looking forward to, we spent a couple trips overseas, our first time, and we'd really like to get back to do some more of that.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
By nature, a little bit shy and introverted, so for me to speak and do something like this, it's a little bit out of character for me, but, I can also get outside of my comfort zone and be available and, respond, and I feel like I communicate and can reach people on a good level. I listen to people's concerns, so, hopefully that's going to help me and be a good basis for me to continue in this position.
Yeah, well, I think we had talked about this before. It's one of those things as a police officer, you have a tendency to keep things closer to the vest. The more you do this, the more outgoing you become and the more acceptant you become to the role, and you put yourself out there a little bit more. So I think you're going to be a huge part of our committee. You're going to do a fabulous job, and we're excited to have you here on the Township Committee. I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to us and tell the residents a little bit about yourself. In closing, I want to thank our residents for watching, and as always, we look forward to continuing our service with honesty, integrity, and trustful leadership. Thank you.